how can a college be a better neighbor to its own community that it shares a space with, whether it's a small town college or it's an urban institution or some suburban place? But how do you make your place accessible? Is it easy for folks to come in from the outside and feel welcome in your cafeteria and eat in the environment where your students are?
Higher education is under unprecedented pressure: financial, cultural, competitive. These forces are pushing universities to act like factories, filling seats, chasing numbers, surviving another year. But exceptional leaders refuse to accept this as the only path forward. They're building community in their own unique ways, creating places where students feel seen, known, and inspired to belong. Their stories can light the way for others navigating this transformation. These are the architects of belonging. Welcome to our AOB studio, and thank you for joining us as well.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Ken,
to be
we're
here.
gonna do so. Yeah, we do this.
Are
with
we
every
rolling?
guest, and
Are we live?
Oh yeah, we're full in. Yeah. This is how we do it. We just kind of stumble into it.
All right, that's good. That's good.
We do this with every guest. You're not going to be an exemption. We call this the LinkedIn intro, which is a way to get the easy stuff out of the way so that you can actually tell us who you are.
Yeah.
But Ken, we, per the name, we've taken a look at your LinkedIn, even though we already knew most of it. But most recently, you're joined on at Human Capital. Before that, you were at RHB. So you've spent, I guess, 4 years now, maybe coming up on 5-ish.
It'll be 4 years.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it'll be 4 years on May 2nd that I have been on the consulting side.
Yeah,
on May 3rd. On May 3rd, because May 2nd was my last day at Lawrence. I took off no time. 18 years at Lawrence, and then boom, I started the next day at RHB.
May 1 happened, and then you
put the class to bed. Thank you. Have a nice day. Got on the horse, rode off in the sunset, and then kept riding all the way to Indianapolis, where I joined my RHB colleagues.
Nice. So yeah, that gets to the first majority chunk of your career, which is 100% on the university side of things.
Yeah.
You were at Lawrence for a while. You were at Marquette as well, which is your alma mater. You're also running your podcast, which we saw that you just hit 100 episodes for that. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. May you get there too.
But yeah, we've got a little more road ahead of us to get there, but that's okay.
You're on your way. You're on your way. You just have to get started and stick with it.
And yeah, here we are. So that's our LinkedIn intro. We're gonna put that off to the side.
Okay.
Let's go a little bit deeper. Who is Ken Anselment? Tell us.
Oh, okay. Let me go sit down on my blue reclinerish chair here in my office and lean back, and we'll talk to you about who Ken Anselment really is. What do you want to know? I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I've got 2 kids who graduated from Jesuit universities like their old man. My son went to Marquette, and my daughter went to Creighton. They were part of the players to be named later in the deal I cut with the Jesuits when they failed to recruit me to join them as a Jesuit myself. Shortly out, during high school. But they said, yeah, well, if you don't join, then you just have to send your kids eventually someday to our colleges. I'm like, that sounds like a fair deal. So anyway, that's a long dad joke. But yeah, they're both grown and flown. They both live in Lincoln Park in Chicago. My son is a consultant. He's 26 years old. What could he possibly be consulting about? But it turns out he's really, really good at it because he's smart and affable and asks really good questions. And my daughter is in the suck right now. She works for EY, and it's busy season, and she's an audit accountant. So it's anybody who has been in that world or knows someone in that world, how difficult this time of year that we're recording. I don't want to timestamp this too much, but it's around that time of year when things are busy. But yeah, live out here in Colorado, moved out to just outside of Boulder back in 2023. when my wife and I decided that we liked the idea of 300 days of sunshine, leaving behind the giant gray blanket of winter that was our lives in Wisconsin from November to basically April every year for 5 decades. So anyway, we decided, all kidding aside, we wanted to start living the life that we wanted to have as retirees earlier. And so many things I had heard from folks is like, why wait? I mean, you don't know. So we sucked it up and came out here, found a house, and it's been great. It's been wonderful. Get to bike as much as I possibly can and hike and do all those things. Yeah. And no, I don't ski.
Okay. Okay. I always knew there was a little bit of a rift between you and I. Okay.
There's some shame. There's some shame in there. I keep threatening to learn, but this little recent mishap might make me think twice about doing dangerous things with my body.
Yeah. It feels like there's something that you have left out a little bit, which is that you are a writer. So you wrote a book kind of alongside your I don't know why you decided to leave that out. You've written a book alongside your podcast there about climbing the admissions leadership peak. You also mentioned that you were on your way to a novel. Tell us more. Where's the writing side of you coming from?
Well, I've written the arc. I know where it's. I know who my characters are. I haven't discovered them completely. But the title of the book is called The Wonder and the Weight, WEIGHT. And let's see, how far do I go with this? It's about opening yourself up to wonder and what the world can show you when you do. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty great advert. We're gonna.
Yeah, that's all it is, because the shape it takes may shift. In fact, this morning I got up early and started. I woke up early with a different idea of how I wanted to open the book, because I've already written the first maybe couple pages, and a really different approach that's a little bit more impressionistic. So it's about sensory experience. It's about approaching the world with curiosity and the wonder that contains, but also the heaviness that can carry with it as well. That, and I've also written a children's book, which is actually a work in progress. I have an illustrator here in Lafayette who works at a terrific brew pub, Odd 13. Tim, I don't know if you run into Odd 13 while you're out here, or Four Noses, but she is their art director and has this beautiful comic aesthetic and has started creating the characters in this book. It's called The Amazing Alliterative Alphabetical Zoo. And it's designed to make language accessible for everybody. So there are characters like an ambivalent aardvark and a cantankerous catfish and a kinetic koala, a somnambulent sloth, an octogenarian octopus. So it's like the idea that $10 words should not just be the domain of people that have a lot of money, that language can be a great field leveler. And I want to do that through playful stanzas that introduce whimsical characters that define what the obscure word actually means.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Did not know that side. So that's...
Haha. Yeah, that's not on the LinkedIn so much.
Yeah.
I've written about it a couple of times. I've written about it. I'm sort of teasing it, but I met with Kai, the artist. Interesting name. But I met with Kai on Tuesday, and she showed me Harmonious Hippo and Itinerant Iguana, and they are absolutely beautiful characters. And so there's more to come. And yes, if you go to the Library of Congress, you'll see that the book does exist. It's actually been copyrighted. It's been written. It just needs to be finished. My hope is that it's available before this year's holiday season so that we can take advantage of it. The way I'm constructing the book is to do it sort of like the Bombas socks model. You buy a book, we'll send a book to a school that has serious resource constraints. I'll put it that way. In places where students may not have access to all of those things that their more well-off peers may have.
Yeah, great. Well,
thank you for letting me advertise here.
Yeah.
You asked.
We'll send you the bill after this on the advertising.
Tell you what, I'll do your voiceovers.
Yeah.
In exchange for that.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all good. Well, now I feel like we know us in the audience know a well-rounded Ken now. So to shift ourselves to the work that we do.
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
We all know, yeah, let's do it. So like we all know when we're zooming out in this industry that we care so deeply about, we all know that it's under pressure. Some colleges are closing. People are questioning higher ed. I think we want to understand from you first, why are you in this work? What's your why for even being in higher ed?
Yeah, that's a different question than how did you get into it? Because that's far less interesting. Why do you stay? To be cheesy about it, I gave a keynote to the Ohio ACAC conference on Tuesday. And one of the things I did this exercise called aerobics, which was designed to get people up and out of their chair and active. It was early in the morning and they needed to get their energy. And I wanted to make sure I had a question that would be the thing that would, the idea is if it is true for you, you have to take the next action. In this case, the first one was just to get up out of your chair. And the question was, stand up if you believe that higher education has the power to change people's lives and trajectories. And of course, everybody stood up. It was an easy line, but that is a long walk up to your answer, which is I believe in what higher education can do. I don't buy this garbage argument that higher is no longer worth it. I don't think it's necessarily for everybody right straight out of high school. But I also think that it's folly to write it off as not worth it. It's too expensive. It's not worth it. I can go do something else, teach myself all the skills that I need to learn. That may be true, but there are some intangibles to the higher educational experience germane to what we are likely going to be talking about that aren't just about skills acquisition. And so I got to help two colleges from the inside, and now helping to use the resources of the company that I work with to help other colleges that may be struggling with their foothold in the market right now, but for whom their product, for lack of a better way of putting it, is still relevant and still worth it.
You, we had seen, you had written somewhere about how a lot of the projects you do is this career-long commitment to lifting up the voices of our profession. And you'd also talk about surfacing the wisdom that helps people lead with clarity and courage. How does that tie into your why?
I was thinking about this earlier this morning. One of the identities that somebody described me once as, "Oh, you're the teacher." And it was, I literally was, like when I was working at Marquette in the admissions office, I was also teaching rhetoric and composition. And I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun to do that as a side hustle. I don't think I could do that as a full-time job, but I think that's that why. It's being able to help people do this very difficult work. And it's not about me teaching them to do it necessarily, but it's me maybe introducing them to somebody else who's struggled with what they've struggled and has found their way through to the other side. And so it's trying to create conditions for people to be, if not always successful, at least committed to the work, if that makes sense. But yeah, the teacher identity is one that I think I've always identified with. There's an alternative path in my history where I'm not a VP for enrollment and I'm not doing this sort of work, but I'm a high school English teacher, coaching football and baseball, working as a college counselor for students. And that's sort of the path not taken for me. And I think there are things I've done in my career that have allowed me to sort of put my foot over on that path while still walking the one I'm on right now.
Interesting. Are you, yeah, I mean, it gets to so you're staying on this path in higher education, yet you think about this other path as well, but you stay in this path Yeah, why are you staying in this path when you just mentioned another path that you care
That's an interesting.
dearly about as
Yeah,
well?
I appreciate that question. I think it maybe has something, Lungi, to do with the way we relate to work. Work and I have had a complicated relationship throughout my life, which is to say, I give it a lot. The love is not always requited, but it's interesting. When I was thinking about moving on from Lawrence, um, my wife had told me, things had gotten to the point where she's like, even when you're home, you're not here. Like I was always in the work. I was always carrying the burden of the work. And that was a choice. That wasn't that the work made me do it, but I just kind of did that. I have, as I've gotten older and a little more reflective, I've tried intentionally. I don't succeed most of the time, but I've tried intentionally to think of work as the thing I do that allows me to do the other things I want to do, rather than have it be the end in itself. So to answer your question, why do I do this? I know how to do it. It takes care of me, and it gives me the freedom to do some of the other things like write, right? And support that. And go out in an early afternoon for a hike in the Flatirons, to live out here in Colorado. So it's sort of putting work in its place. But yeah, that's the why. I've learned a lot in this work. I've been exposed to a lot of wonderful, brilliant people, and I feel, whether it's earned or not, I feel a responsibility to help that next generation of folks that have chosen to do this or who are thinking about continuing to do this, and help pull them along. That's why.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tim.
I feel like you're setting me up for something. Like there's a haymaker coming.
No. I'll ask one more question on this, and then I want to move on. So we're being
so do
time
I
conscious here. Yeah, yeah. You partially answered it right there, but I was going to ask if this teacher identity is something that you actually feel fulfilled in, or it actually feels more of the responsibility because of the experiences that you've accrued, which not many people actually have.
You're asking kind of the Peter Parker question, right? Of those who are given of those who are given much is expected.
Yeah.
Those with great power have great responsibility.
We're framing you as a Marvel character here.
It's a little biblical, a little Marvel universe. It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
You don't do it if there's no joy in it, though, right? Well, no, that's also a presumptuous statement. It so happens that I feel a sense of responsibility and I enjoy it. I feel very much at home doing it. So yeah, you might call it coherence, to quote the great Rick Bailey. But it's just when something is true to your core, or you discover that it's true to your core, then by all means, hold on to it with both hands and go along for the ride.
Okay. Yeah, fair. Let's transition then a little bit to the work.
Yeah, enough about me. Let's talk about you.
Yeah. We told you we were going to probe a little bit deeper than in our previous conversations. So
thank you. Thank you. I'll get up off the couch now.
Yeah. You can get out of the recliner now.
For people who are watching, they'll know that I went nowhere. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to transition into what we call the reality of the present day, just for a little bit in this conversation.
Yeah.
As Lungi had mentioned up front, there is a lot of talk about the current pressures that higher education is under. You yourself have also written about this a lot, and we're not going to yet talk about what the response or is needed to it. We just want to focus on the pressures.
Yeah.
What do you see across the landscape? And maybe it'll be quite interesting to hear, because you did sit in the role within a university, but now you are on the consultant side where maybe you have more of a broader purview. So, just curious as to what you see from a pressure standpoint or a reckoning standpoint within higher education.
Yeah. Well, this work was hard before January 20th, 2025. I don't want to get too political about it, but I think to ignore the politics of what's going on in our environment right now would be irresponsible, because colleges were already in a tough spot, and the environment was difficult. But then when you start threatening the very revenue channels that colleges thrive on to be able to do the work they do, whether it's let's tax endowments, that sounds like a great idea, or hey, let's significantly cut funding for National Institute of Health and the NSF, and anything that maybe helps advance the cause of knowledge on a college campus. See if we can put those under duress. That might be wasteful. Department of Education, we don't need it. Let's farm that out to other departments. So, I mean, just a systematic deconstruction of so much of what supports education is a new chapter in what has already been a really difficult book over the past several decades with higher ed. Yeah, a lot of the problems are of our own making. We all, so many of us market ourselves. We sound exactly like each other. I think probably out of fear to break away and speak about who we really truly are. The high cost, high discount model is right now the only model that a lot of folks have figured out that it works, because we've conditioned the market to expect a high cost and a high discount. Scholarships are the things you should expect from colleges, not the things that are a wonderful surprise anymore. But all of this, I think, is the layer, just another layer of what is really just kind of a challenging market to recruit in. As college gets more expensive, people are looking much more carefully at whether they even want to make that risky investment. And I think the more expensive college gets, the less patient people are to wait for the payoff for college. And so you get a reductivist approach to, well, how much am I going to make and how many job offers am I going to get when I come out of this institution, which is sort of a factory approach. I know we've talked a little bit about this, but it's we're not making widgets, people. And I worry that we reduce what we're doing to just transactional. That's not what some schools are designed for that. But a lot of colleges were founded on much more ambitious missions than that. More ambiguous outcomes, but more ambitious missions than that. And so all of that is difficult. And as someone who worked on a college campus, for sure, I mean, just the daily worries of, do we have enough? Do we have the right size applicant pool? Do we have the right number of viable admits? Do we have the strategy in place to not just marketing strategy, but pricing strategy to get the folks that want to say yes to our institution to actually be able to say yes, and not just come to our institution, but stay at our institution and graduate. It's just a highly complex dance. And it's just that much harder. And I'm sorry if I started with the political thing. We're an unpleasant company. We probably shouldn't talk about politics or religion, but I'll touch that first rail. But I don't think you can't ignore it right now. I mean, all the things that happened before that, whether it's DEI programs coming under threat, or the SFFA ruling with the Supreme Court on affirmative action and admission. I mean, take your pick of things that have just made things that much more difficult. Notice I have not said anything about the demographic cliff, because I don't believe it's a cliff. Cliff is a great thing to scare people. It causes anxiety, but it is not that sheer of a drop-off. In fact, I think by the time 2041 rolls around, we'll still have more high school graduates than we had in 2009. So it's the shape of a mountain. It's not necessarily a mesa with a cliff. But that's a different conversation for a different time. But there are obviously population constraints. It is a shrinking population, so it's going to make things more challenging, but it also means that colleges would do well to shore up their efforts to hold on to the students that they recruit in that sort of a marketplace, which I know sort of gets to some of what we'll want to we'll want to talk about too.
Yeah, and we'll actually shift to that in a sec. Just wanted to ask quickly. Yeah, the pressures are.
You can ask quickly, but I won't answer quickly, so I'll try to.
That's fine. It's okay for me to ask quickly. The pressures are. I mean, they are political. They are cultural, financial.
Cool.
They're coming from all different sorts of angles. Is it fair? Is it a fair reckoning that higher education is going under? Yeah, on average, when you look at it, is it fair?
I can see why people might think that higher ed needed to have a reckoning or have its comeuppance. But I sympathize or empathize. I'm not sure if it's the sim or the whatever. I have feelings that are aligned with folks that are doing the work every day. Often in resource-constrained environments that the resources are getting even more constrained. I've worked with some institutions, Lungi, that are wonderful places that have people that are so committed to the cause, but have broken systems, bad governance, leaky structures, the things that people need to do to be able to thrive in them. I mean, it's hard enough work without having to work around systems that don't support your work. It just makes things more expensive, but it also makes the margin of error that much slimmer at some institutions. Whereas it may be better resourced institutions, that's not as much of a concern, but even the best resource institutions can have some serious problems. I mean, has anybody had a year like Harvard has had recently? I mean, a lot of people may cry boo-hoo, but at the same time, you're hitting the pinnacle, like sort of the exemplar of American higher ed in some significant pain points, and those are very real for the people that are working there. And so, yes, there was a correction that needed to answer your question. Yes, I think there was a correction that needed to happen. But you know as well as I do that higher education, in many cases, so-called traditional residential. This doesn't talk about online, which is a much more efficient, can be a much more cost-efficient way of delivering education. But it's a highly labor-intensive enterprise that is expensive to deliver. And so it's always going to be under financial duress for most institutions because of the way it's designed. And so it took me a while to get there. I told you it would. Yeah, we were probably heading to this because of the way that it was designed in the first place, which I would still probably go back and design that way anyway, because it's worked for centuries.
Yeah. One last point on this then. So you have written that higher education is under attack, not because it's failing, but because it's powerful. That's
Did I say that?
A stand. You've written about that.
I've written about it. I don't know if I said it as elegantly as you just did.
We usually just copy and paste from
okay. So, yeah, it is powerful. It is powerful.
Give us a little bit. Give us a little bit of a look into that, because that's a reframing that I don't think we've had yet in the conversation. It's usually on the failing side in some capacity.
Sure,
but
well, I mean, do I go here?
Go there. Yeah.
Fascism is more likely to take hold, and authoritarianism wins with people that don't have all of the tools to ask the right questions and take the right action in opposition to it. So a systematic weakening of a highly educated population is cynical, but it is certainly a way to shift a balance of power. If you have the people who are in positions of power who can speak truth to power and question authority and all the things that education teaches you to do, if those are weakened, it paves the way to some pretty scary spaces. But it's also a foolish enterprise, that I have written, because it's also the greatest economic engine in this country. So it's like, let's take the engine out of the car and start, cruising. This metaphor is not going to work. I was going to do like a Flintstones thing, but it's like, it's a Pyrrhic victory for their side too. You pummel and weaken higher education so that you don't have your critics out there, but you also lose all of the things that put you in that world's strongest economic position in the first place.
Yeah.
That's why I say that it's not weak, it's powerful.
Yeah. Okay. And so let's shift to the response that higher ed should have.
Let's do that. Let's do that. I'm getting a little polemical this morning. Sorry.
All good.
No, you know what? I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry.
This is a great conversation. I'm glad you're speaking your mind. Let's shift to the response then that higher ed should have. We see all these pressures. You mentioned the factory model as some people or some institutions leaning more into transactional way of thinking. Just that's how we see it as well. But what from your perspective, how should higher ed be responding to this reckoning?
Talking a lot about AI right now. So if you had AI on your bingo card, congratulations, you get to cover that square too, because we got that. I wrote about this a few years ago, 2.5 years ago, maybe. We need the liberal arts, for example, more than ever in an AI world, because much like we used to say, oh, it's on the internet, it must be true. Or I saw it on TV, it must be true. It's coming out of the AI, it must be true. I don't know if you need a liberal arts question to have the discipline to pause and question, but the liberal arts gives you so many different lenses to make sense of the world, through literature, through music, through math, through the study of religion, through the study of the stars, through if you want to go all the way back to the original liberal arts. And that's one of the things I worry about as colleges are looking to this, cutting expenses and proving value. The humanities are usually one of the first things on the table for being cut because people aren't enrolling in them anymore. I say this as an English major who went on and got a master's degree in British and American literature. Super practical for someone getting into higher education, enrollment management. Turns out it is, because you learn how to read texts differently. You learn how to think critically. And anyway. So I think that's one place, is paying attention to what your mission is, not being so duty bound that you don't open yourself up to innovations or maybe different ways of delivering an English major. You could do it as creative writing. I've seen institutions fight about adding creative writing because it dilutes Elizabethan literature and Victorian literature. I'm like, yeah, but guess what? If you bring in more students interested in creative writing, they're going to get introduced to the rest of your English department and they can take your classes. So looking at gateways where students can maybe come into the things that look safe, but still introduce them to the best of what higher education can offer. Yes, get that so-called practical degree, but make sure that core is not just hard skills based, but also more of those softer, harder to define critical thinking skills. But also, back to what I was talking about with the book too, the things that give you the tools to experience the world with wonder. That's hard to monetize. We also, I think, need to, colleges in general, and colleges do this, I think trustees at many institutions still are wrapping their heads around what retention means. So much of the energy is focused on recruitment because that's sales and everybody kind of understands how that works. But the harder work of creating environments where students can find a sense of belonging, they find their people at the institution, because it's not just about consuming the education. At many institutions, it's also about finding your communities and finding your people. And it's those relationships that you build that shape who you're going to be for the rest of your life. And so it's investing in those things that also make sure that the students you recruit stay at the institution. not against their will, but that if they choose you, if they put enough faith in you to say yes to you, then it's on us as the institution to deliver on the promises we made when we were recruiting them.
Mm. And it sounds like you're talking about, a bit of a transformation for higher education to consider more of the whole human in what they are doing or what they are able to build with young students that are out there. One thing that
older students,
or older students as well.
Let's think about all the different ways people can come into the higher education ecosystem too. I also want to do away with the term traditional learners. On that point, like I was at University of Montana last month, and their president, who has since moved on, I think he's going to run for office, refers to it's the wider range of learners instead of calling it non-traditional and traditional. Wow, that was super mansplaining. I'm sorry, Tim.
No, this is good. This is good. This is setting me up for my next question. Actually,
okay,
perfect.
Great.
Yeah,
sorry.
Please keep going. So we know that you believe higher ed is worth saving toward
all that and a bag of chips,
right?
Yes,
yeah, all of it. You have talked about another article that we've noticed that the key question here is whether we will act before the damage is irreversible. So taking into account some of the transformation that you do feel higher ed should get itself to, what do you feel are maybe more of the practical actions that can be taken? What does it look like, for a school to be like, okay, I see the future, I see the greener pastures over there, but I need to act now. What can I do?
One of the things that I think I've written about before, and this may be what you're referring to, is how colleges can take off the table the argument that we are these ivory towers disconnected from reality or disconnected from our communities. How can a campus, and again, talking about residential campuses right now, but how can a college be a better neighbor to its own community that it shares a space with, whether it's a small town college or it's an urban institution or some suburban place? But how do you make your place accessible? Is it easy for folks to come in from the outside and feel welcome in your cafeteria and eat in the environment where your students are? Plus, it might be a revenue stream for you. You can get some people coming in and paying for your lunches. Is your library accessible? Are your performances open? Athletic, musical, theatrical, whatever, art. How much do you invite your community in? I know a lot of times we talk about service learning and the places where institutions go out and our students go out and help the community, which is fine, but not all communities want to be looked at as a target of a service project. I think it's finding ways to make your neighbors feel welcome on your college campus, and it makes it harder to dismiss colleges as these out of touch places, these inaccessible places. When I was at Lawrence, I remember how often people would think that, well, that's the rich kids' school, because we had this high tuition. We were right in the middle of Appleton, Wisconsin, which is a pretty decidedly middle class city. And our economic profile at Lawrence was significantly more diverse than the community we were in. But it gets harder for people to dismiss with stereotypes that which they know personally. And so I'm pontificating, but one way I think is to be a better neighbor. Not just putting out economic impact reports. Those are fine. But really, what are you doing to invite people in to be with you? And it might help us. It might help us in the long run. But it's also taking care of, colleges need to get better at saying no to things. We're great at adding this system, adding this software, adding this program, adding this department or this line of work, but not necessarily cutting other things. Or our president at Lawrence, Mark Burstein, was awesome at doing this. He said, and he's not the only person who's ever said you can't cut your way to prosperity, but it's reinvestment, not just cutting. And so if you're choosing to stop doing one thing, where are you putting those other resources? But I've seen some institutions in just the past 4 years that are, and I was sort of alluding to this earlier, really great people who are working with systems that aren't supporting them, who, if they had better systems on their campus, could be making those marginal differences for students who may be wavering between whether they're going to stay or not. Or on the flip side, you have students that are getting chewed up in systems that don't serve them well. They just have an automatic hold that's put on their account and they have no idea why. And it happens right before their exams. And so they're in this double stress position. And I mean, if you want to create a sense of belonging, those are two great ways to make somebody feel like they don't belong. And so it's really auditing everything you do at the institution. And sometimes that can be, I'm saying this as a consultant now, it can be hard to do it yourself. Sometimes you need to have somebody come in from the outside and hold up the mirror and show where maybe you are getting in your own way. And let's just not admire the problem. Let's come up with some better ways to do it. And they don't all have to be really expensive either. It might just be a different way of looking at things.
Yeah, that's fair. I think our last, if you're slightly alluding to it there, our last question before we kind of do some quick fires to wrap up is, how important from your perspective is community and building a sense of belonging in this current time that we've just talked about for university? Okay.
Abundantly. I think about it sometimes with its lack, maybe more than its presence. If you're in an environment as a student, and you've probably seen this in your work, right? If you're in an environment as a student and you see your peers leaving, it makes it harder for you to want to stay too, right? And so as your community gets smaller, you start wondering, what am I missing here? But I think helping students find, quote, their people early makes that retention job that much easier too, because you're not just reacting as an institution, you're putting them in places where you increase the odds that they find that kindred spirit, that person who may be a fellow traveler. All it takes is one other. And then I'm speaking idealistically, but that there can be cellular bonding, but you'll have more opportunities for people to find connections. It's harder now than it's ever been because our digital world makes it so much easier for self-isolation to be the way to go. I reach out for my help by looking at my phone. And I think it's harder for colleges to build those communities among their peers on campus. But you see some great examples of this at schools where you have living and learning communities. You have greater chances for affinity by putting all the creative students together and all the science students together. Not that creative and science are different, but you put students with similar academic interests or co-curricular interests in proximity to each other. It makes it easier for them to stick. Ask any athletic team, music ensemble, look at those two as great examples of the things that make students stick to the institution. Community is powerful. And that's the
tagline right there. We're gonna snip at that one out from the whole thing. No, we know you got a hard stop here, so we'll wrap up in 5 minutes.
We could have kept going. I feel like we're just getting started.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we need to schedule up a part 2 to this.
we don't have to do that, but I always enjoy.
Wow, this guy.
No, I don't mean it that way. I just sure, I'd love to. I always enjoy my conversations with you. That's really what I'm saying.
Okay, well, we do too. All right. So as Lungi mentioned, we do close on just a few rapid fire questions. So we started this conversation talking about your why for why you're staying in this work. Mm-hmm. One of our closing questions is, when you reflect on legacy, what is the legacy that you hope to leave behind in higher education?
It's quick fire, by the way, Ken.
Okay, sorry. Legacy is well played, Lunky. Gosh. I don't think about that. that's probably, I don't know what that tells you about me. He cared. He cared. He cared about the profession, and he cared about the people that do it, and he cared about students, and tried to pull all three of them together.
Love that.
But
love that.
God, it sounds like he's dead already.
No. Well, second quick fire.
Okay, I'll do better this time.
No, that was great. If all of higher education were to stop right now, the whole industry went quiet and listened to you, and you could say one statement that they would all take in, what would you say?
Jeez. You're going to cut all of this out. What's the one thing I would ask him they should listen to? Honestly, I will. Hold up the mirror. Ask somebody to hold up the mirror and see if you are delivering on the promises that you've made. And if not, what is the next step you can take to start delivering on that promise?
It's a great statement, Ken. Did well. I'll cut the pause so it looks like you just rapid fired that one off.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. But keep that part.
That was good. That was really good. That was really good. Really good. Okay. Third question here. This may actually.
I can go a little. I can go a little after 11. It's okay. I can. I have to go to a meeting.
We'll ask two more questions because one of them is going to be just about your thoughts on the challenge. But actually no, I'll start with that one, and Lungi, I'll let you finish it off with the final one. So we built out that community challenge assessment really for the sole purpose of a way for leaders in higher education to just start thinking about this topic, like how could we start the conversation? And you had took it as a persona of being a leader in higher education, still on your university side, almost kind of going back to your past. Yeah, just would love to hear quick reactions. Don't need to go into the specifics on it, but just what were your thoughts as you took that challenge?
As a tool, I like that it's a forced choice. I like that you've got 4 points, not 5 choices in each one. So you got to go one side or the other. But as a tool for reflection, I think it's asking questions that I don't know. I mean, to the rapid fire that I struggled to come up with earlier, if these are the kind of questions that institutions are necessarily asking about the experience that they're fostering on campus for their students and how they're structuring themselves to make that sustainable. So as an institutional self-reflection, I think you're onto something there. Guided reflection, right? To prompt with the right kind of questions.
Yeah. I feel I can see we need to put some time aside for us to go deeper into that. Because I think you probably have some great thoughts around it.
To make sure that every answer that people give is true without making it seem like one's better than the other. Right? I mean, clearly one is better than the other, but I think that's sort of the next layer, is getting to that. Okay, how can I say this is true without feeling terrible about it being true?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Our last quickfire is, who's another leader in the space in higher education that you admire and is doing some work that we should bring onto this series? And building belonging boldly or working on community.
Honestly, the first person that comes to mind is Carolyn Nolsorg. Carolyn is about to become the president of John Carroll University. She has been the vice president for enrollment for 3 years. She's brilliant. And is sort of this personal embodiment of mission. She's like the intersection of leadership, mission, and institution, and is just an exemplar. And she's thoughtful. She's engaging. She sees the whole game board. how students and faculty interact with administration, how to be a listener. She's like a living, she's sort of like an higher education version of Brene Brown in a way, without being as brash, but has sort of that wiring. Just, she sees things as they're happening. And I'm a big fan.
Well, Ken, thank you so much for joining us on this series here. Really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for thanks for putting up with my long-winded answers.
Yeah. Maybe you were regretting coming on. I don't know.
Not at all. No, not at all. Your listeners may regret it, but anyway, thank you for having me on. We
strive for the authentic, and I think you showed up authentically today.
Yeah.
So
good luck with the editing.